Hello, my loves. Welcome to Be for Vibrant. My name is Kellyanne, and this is March's Highly Sensitive People reading. I am going to be reading some cards today. And before, in February, I was reading archetype cards, which show us some identities and roles that we've been playing as highly sensitive people that we're moving through, where we've come from, where we are now, where we're going. This is going to be a different reading. We're going to be getting into the Oracle of the Goddess deck, which has 12 different goddesses that align with the 12 signs in astrology. And we're going to be checking out their head space, heart space, and home space, just different versions of the messages that these goddesses have so that they can help us understand as highly sensitive people what we're working with in the month of March and some of the energies to be aware of. If you identify as a people pleaser or a perfectionist as well, and you're trying to recover in those areas of your life, be sure to go and check out those readings as well, because this is like my bag here. I'm all about perfectionist recovery, people pleasing recovery, and strengthening those who feel that they are highly sensitive, not only in their, like sense of smell. Like it's funny how my sense of smell is so super heightened, but so is my emotional sensitivity, and so is my energetic sensitivity, like things that I can know without knowing how I know them. That kind of sensitivity, if you're a highly sensitive person in that way, I'm here for you, and I'm going through the same like strengthening of my own powers and abilities of perception as well, and intuition. So, welcome to the journey if you're new here, and welcome back if you have been here before. Um, we're going to be getting into the head, heart, and home cards for these goddesses. So we're going to be hearing about the mental changes, the emotional changes, as well as the physical, environmental, and relational changes that might be helpful for us as highly sensitive people, so that we can really expand more into the power of our sensitivity. So let's get started. I've already chosen a card for the headspace, but later in the reading, I'll be pulling cards for the heart and home space as well. So you'll get to tap into those energies with me. All right, we are starting with Divyana, goddess of protection, who is saying, think of the past. Interesting to start with think of the past. As a highly sensitive person, when you think about your sensitivity, what comes up for you? What comes up in terms of like things that have happened in the past to make you aware of your highly sensitive nature? We'll just do what Divyana said, and we'll just think of the past for a second. I've got my stories. I've got my stories for sure. If you need more time, feel free to pause and just check in with yourself about what your stories from the past are. So, Divyana is saying for the benefit of our mind, our mindset, and the structures that we have mentally, for the benefit of those systems and structures, she is telling us limiting habits and attitudes are formed as protective reactions to past events. Ooh, limiting habits and attitudes are formed as protective reactions to past events. I had to read it again. It's just, it's like, yeah, we sure do that. Develop our own coping mechanisms. Avoiding commitment results when commitment proved painful in the past. Both lack of support and smothering overprotection cause low self-esteem. Negative events and family interactions will hinder you and your relationships now unless identified and their effects understood. If you, as a highly sensitive person, I think Divyana's trying to help us root out, especially if you are newly aware of being a highly sensitive person or a person with autism, because in some circles, they're one and the same. If you are new to this understanding of yourself, um, one of the things that you may want to take note of is how Divyana here is talking about protection as a reaction to the past. Often we try to protect ourselves when we think we're noticing patterns that we've seen before. And we think we're protecting ourselves by reacting to what we think we're seeing in the same way that we wish we had when we first encountered the pattern, when we first encountered the problem, even. And what happens there is that some negative beliefs start to form. And if we don't identify and understand the effects of those negative beliefs and the response patterns that we have developed in response to these patterns, then what we end up with is a a life that is protected from connection, from ultimate connection. Because the thing that we end up doing is we avoid commitment. If commitment was difficult for us in the past, we limit ourselves, we smother other people. Maybe as a highly sensitive person, you have also developed people pleasing or perfectionism tendencies. I think the overlap is super lapping, the super over and super lapping. Um, and that sort of smothering, that sort of overprotection can result not just from like recognizing patterns, which I think highly sensitive people and autistic people are very good at doing, um, but also there's an overprotection that happens because we're we're basing our responses on fear. We're basing our reactions on what we fear happening again or what we fear happening this time, everything that could go wrong, um, instead of being curious about what actually needs to be understood and being judicious and discerning about what actually needs to be protected. Because if we, are highly sensitive people who have children that we're raising, what we end up doing is we try to block them from, the same hurts that we've experienced. And instead of like helping them, guiding them through, all of the mess, we try to manipulate the situation so that they avoid the mess completely. And if kids never get messy, then they'll never grow up. They'll never understand where the mess leads to, and they'll never learn how to clean up. There are consequences to the avoidance of consequences. And I think that's like a big thing that Divyana is making us aware of is that, we form these sort of beliefs and attitudes as a protection against events that have happened that we don't want to happen again. But the reality is there are no two things are completely alike, are identical, and no two situations are going to be exactly the same. So our pattern recognition as highly sensitive people can make us like really fight or flighty, really aware of how we need to respond. And I think the other thing that's sticking out to me is both lack of support and smothering overprotection cause low self-esteem. This for me is like a narrative that highly sensitive people need to pay more attention to. That as sensitive people, we have either been smotheringly overprotected. People noticed how sensitive we were and tried to hide us away from the world, or they were so unprotective and unsupportive that we had to protect ourselves and we learned to hide ourselves away from the world and and react in a way that uh, a parent might have or could have, should have, would have for us. But it also, both of those things results in not really knowing yourself. Because if you learn that when you're being sensitive to something and you're upset or you're sad and nobody's there to support you, nobody believes you, nobody tries to understand you, and nobody thinks that what you're seeing is real to you at the very least, what you end up with is a lack of confidence in your own reality. And I think that lends itself to people pleasing, lends itself to, well, I can't trust my own reality. Everybody thinks that I'm so sensitive, about all these things. Well, then maybe I'll observe and I'll figure out what I am allowed to be sensitive about or what I am allowed to feel this strongly about. And what we find is that people don't feel strongly about a whole lot of things. And when they do, it's uh, cataclysmic. I mean, a bomb that gets dropped. And then we end up being the people who, as people pleasers, throw ourselves on the grenade and try to mitigate the damage. Try to protect those people who didn't protect us, didn't help us. Try to protect those people from feeling so bigly that it makes our lives worse. So there's a lack of confidence in our own reality that comes from uh like having to invest so much energy in the sort of ins and outs of other people's reality, but also, you know, when we were not given the space to explore our own inner world and explore the outer world and be rejected and be vulnerable and be uplifted by other people because somebody or somebodies wanted to make sure that we were safe at all costs, then what we're also missing sometimes is a self-esteem in that, like, we don't know if people really know us. We don't know if people really like us. We don't really know if people like us for us because we become those smothering parents to ourselves. We become the person who stops us from taking it so far that other people actually like run the risk of learning who we are and learning just how deeply we feel and just how motivated we are by the things that we're sensitive to. We become those smothering parents, or we become those unsupportive inner parents. And Divyana is pointing that out at the beginning of this reading because this is an opportunity for us to like go into those sort of mental frameworks of like, how do I react? And what is worth protecting to me so that we can move our energy around that and not like move our energy around that, but like move the energy within those frameworks. Start to pull apart some of the beliefs that are holding us back from real connection, real compassion, real honesty and vulnerability with other people so that we can see ourselves in a different light and give other people the opportunity to see us in that light too. Let's see what we've got for our heart cards. This is about our emotional capacity, emotional intelligence. This is about our feely feels. So let's see what we've got for highly sensitive people for the month of March. What do we need here? Yeah. Had to lean over the desk because I knew one of them wanted to jump out. And of course it was Romikumu, goddess of willpower. Just wanted to jump out. Goddess Romikumu is saying feel powerful. This is one of my favorite cards. This is one of my favorite goddesses. I'll say this, I'll say this about a few people, but Romikumu, Pasui, and Erzuli are some of my favorites. Sorry, Divyana. I mean, you're up there, but Romikumu, I'm just like, girl, look at this with the bird here and everything. Just like a really spicy heart, just a real spicy energy. The willpower is so strong with this one, and I just uh every time I'm just like, All right, Romikumu is saying conflicting feelings about the appropriateness of aggressive behavior must be resolved. You are right to feel driven and totally committed to achieving your goal swiftly. Be aware that being so immersed and obsessed can blind you to what is truly the best way. Express your feelings in a confident, non-violent fashion. Expect things to heat up. The thing that's standing out to me, this is the fruit, and you can spit out the seeds, or you can tell me you can run it back a little and listen to that card again and tell me what phrases really jumped out for you. Like, let me know in the comments if it's different from what I thought or the same and what you got from it. But the fruit that I am chewing on from this card um, is be aware that being so immersed and obsessed can blind you to what is truly the best way. I think this is building on what Divyana was helping us understand, which is that there are certain beliefs that we have that are overprotective or underprotective of the love and beauty that we have as living beings and the vibrancy and fulfillment of our lives. There are some beliefs that limit us from being able to see full color in our lives that make us see just in grays and black and whites. There are some beliefs that we have that are not fulfilling because they don't give us the goods. They don't give us the warm fuzzies even when that belief like really enforces itself in the most positive way. Some of the beliefs that we have are like if we, sit in like the best case scenario for those beliefs. Say the belief, I'm just trying to come up with this off the top of my head here, so let me see if I can tune into something good here. Um, if a belief that we have is I am too dramatic and my sensitivity makes me an overwhelming people to other people. The best case scenario, the best version, the most positive version of what that belief looks like in practice is shutting yourself down so that other people will like you and so that other people will want to be around you. And apologizing all the time for having any feelings whatsoever. That's the best case scenario. Ta-da! A bad belief is going to generate bad feelings. Who would have thunk? Who would have thought that? But as a highly sensitive person, you have to look at those beliefs that the people who raised you and the people who taught you and the people who were your mentors all like, de helped you to develop, develop as in developed within you without your own conscious like design. Take a look at those unconsciously designed beliefs so that you can start to like pull yourself out of the immersion into that reality that belief creates. Because some of us become so obsessed with those beliefs that we can't see outside of them and we can't see ourselves truly. We can't really fully understand the appropriateness of our own behavior and the appropriateness of our own feelings because we're so committed to the density of that belief. We're so locked into the density of that compounding belief or that compounding system of beliefs. That's why we call it belief systems, because it's multiple beliefs locking into each other and making us feel like we're trapped in a world in which nobody understands us, or everybody thinks that we're too much. What is going to happen if you continue to believe that? Romy Kumu wants you to get into not just, the beliefs, but the feelings, the sort of like emotional ties that you have to those beliefs so that you can be able to dispel them. Because it's truly like we become blinded by the emotions that we have tied to those things, the especially shame locks us in. Shame is one of those emotions that makes us feel like we are trapped within ourselves because while guilt is feeling bad about something that you did and it holds you accountable to whatever was done. Shame is a an emotion that results from the belief that that which I feel guilty about, I must blame myself for, and it reflects poorly on me in the sense that I am that person. I am a person who would hurt people like that as a pattern, as a pattern that I can start to recognize within myself. This is how I hurt people, or this is how I, hurt myself, or this is how I show up in the world to annoy others with how bigly I feel, or how, I used to get really, um, I used to get really down on myself about this really small thing, and it's going to sound so innocuous. It's going to sound so nothing, but it actually was something that I was worried about when I was a kid. We would go to the mall or get dropped off at the mall, and as we would pass the candle store, Yankee Candles, this is for people in your 30s. When going to the mall was a really big deal. 30s, 40s, 50s, like mall culture. When you would pass by the candle store, there were a lot of smells. There were a lot of smells. It was just really ridiculous, how many smells were culminating in one place. And for some people, they could walk in there and it would be nothing. And it's just another day. But for me, I would get a headache just walking near the store because there were so many smells assaulting me that I was sensitive to, that my sensory overwhelm and my sensory overload would trigger a headache, as well as trigger a sense of not enoughness. I would be at the mall with people and they would want to go into the store, and I would say, no, I'm not going in there. I can't, I don't, I won't. And they would either choose to go in without me or they would choose to stick by and we would walk past. No matter what they chose, I would always feel a little ashamed that I am a person who would stop other people from doing things that they want to do because I can't handle a little smell, because I can't handle some candles, because I can't handle candles. That's the little weird, slightly ingrained thing in me that, was a people pleaser, perfectionist, sort of the two sides of the coin. Like I can't be this perfect person for this other human who I'm trying to hang out with. I can't be perfect for them. But also I said no. Ah, that's the people pleaser curse word. That's like a swear word for people pleasers. It's like I have to put, I have to put $1 in the swear jar because I said no to somebody today. But that was a hard line for me. That was a deal breaker, was I will go anywhere I'm bored as hell in the mall. I don't care if you want to go into the, what is it, sharper image, and you want to look at all the tech stuff and whatever. I'll go sit in the massage chair or whatever and put my hand on the little electricity globe guy and just be bored until you're ready to move on. It's fine. I'll accept saying yes to something that I would normally say no to because my tolerance level for that is pretty high. My tolerance level for smells, though, extremely low. Extremely low. I'll smell the craziest things that nobody else will smell or before anybody else smells it. It's just, and I started to develop a shame shell around that of like, I'm I'm not good enough or I'm not, I don't know, chill enough. Back then I was also kind of like obsessed with being low maintenance. And maybe that's like a woman cultural thing where it's like being high maintenance and being low maintenance have their own sort of stereotypes and prejudice to them. I think the colonialist culture that we're in is very prejudiced against high maintenance women in the sense that we can't have needs and we can't have desires and we can't just say how we're feeling. I think that's like the bare minimum that any human should be able to and allowed to have and to do and to be. But because of my tits, that's not for me. So I would feel bad. I developed shame, and shame is such a strong emotion that ties us into certain beliefs that we've developed because of other people and then held on to because that shame shell sort of protects us from criticizing in a positive way, self-challenging so that we are developing a self-awareness that moves us toward a confident, empowered self, as opposed to challenges us to move toward a self who is just like really hammering on all the things that we think make us bad people. Like shame is I am a bad person because this thing makes me a bad doing this thing means just automatically that I am a bad person. And when we're sitting with that and we're like stuck in that and that conflict between the high sensitivity that we have that we want to be able to communicate and that low tolerance that we have for actually communicating, when they start to conflict with each other, we feel ashamed of our sensitivity because it's making us aware of things that we don't want to have to communicate about and we don't feel is appropriate for us to communicate about. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a room or I've been at work especially where we're all afraid to lose our jobs because we all need money and we're all, you know, fixated in a culture of capitalism in which the labor that we show up to do uh, it means that we get to survive. I felt that my survival was in jeopardy all the time because I was sensing things that I wanted to name and could not. Couldn't bring myself to because I thought that's a big risk to be a woman who's saying what I think. Uh-uh. That's too big of a risk. That's inappropriate. For me to say what I really think and how I really feel, inappropriate, immediately inappropriate. That's the kind of thing that Romy Kumu wants us to use our willpower to rip out and to like actually witness. Because we need to be able to witness our shame. We need to be able to witness those boundaries that we've put in place against ourselves, like too close for comfort, in order to make other people comfortable, in order to make other people like us, in order to ensure that we continue to feel connected and we continue to survive. As highly sensitive people, it's really hard for us to like negotiate and navigate those spaces between what we actually sense and what we sense is real and what we sense as barriers toward challenging that reality and communicating and being honest about that reality that we're experiencing. Because other people will name realities in front of us and we'll go, "Ooh, I think you're wrong about that." But we don't feel safe to say that. We don't feel safe in like a survival capitalist sense, but also we don't feel safe in like a connective sense. And connection is a need. We are wired for connection. Humans are wired to connect with each other and to connect with other beings. That's why we have pets. That's why I have, oh, he's not in here anymore. I'm like, that's why I have a dog laying in the bedroom here because he just, follows me into the room or whatever. But it's why, we have such a long, like, infant period, an infant childhood period, because we are wired for that connection. We are wired for that um, sense of identity formation that happens when we are together. Romy Kumu wants us to be aware of what we are immersed in, aware of the feelings that we're immersed in, so that we're not blinded to how other people are taking advantage of the negative limiting prejudices we have against ourselves. And if that wasn't enough for you, let's let's get into our home cards here. It's about our environment. It's about our finances. It's about our relationships. What are we going to get into? I guess we'll find out. Highly sensitive people, what do we need to hear this month as we navigate our outer worlds? Hmm. We've got Taiyuan, goddess of duality, saying, listen to others. At this time, the answer lies outside your experience. There is no shame in seeking the advice of others. They may be trusted friends, relatives, professional counselors, or you may find what you seek in books and other artistic forms for preserving knowledge. Recognize truth wherever you encounter it, inside yourself and in others. This is very relational, but also relational in the sense that there are resources that we can develop a relationship to. Like I have, just for example, there are some resources in books. There are resources in, the streaming app Dropout. I'm like, I have a relationship with Dropout now. Like we're going steady. And also like I have a relationship with Dropout, for instance, in the sense that I have uh, like talked to other people about it and its pros and cons and the things that I have developed a relationship with. Same with some books that I have. There are relationships that I've developed to certain resources where wisdom has come to me, and I have been eternally grateful for the shift in my emotional state, the shift in my mindset. So this is like a very cohesive reading here where we're talking about connecting with resources, connecting with relationships that give us information that we didn't already have, that we can't just find by digging deeper within ourselves. And I talk about this in the perfectionist recovery reading for March, where I get into the cultural aspect of you know, taking the reins of uh your healing process and the progress that you make and being able to turn and shift and pivot toward beliefs that make more sense for you and are better feeling for you, toward like a greater capacity for certain emotions um that tie you back to your vibrancy and the fulfillment that you want to feel in this lifetime. There are certain obstacles in our way because of the culture that we live in, because of the carceral, as in incarcerated, as in prison-like, carceral system that we live in, the colonialist system that we live in, which is all about exploitation, extraction, and urgency. There are a lot of parts of our culture that make us treat ourselves a certain way. And sometimes you can't dig deeper to extract more wisdom. You can't extract more when you're all by yourself and you're doing the rugged individualist self-healing, hashtag self-love, hashtag self-care, practice. It makes me so frustrated. It makes me so angry and pissed off, really, that there's this message of self-care without the expectation that you yourself need to be cared for. You yourself need other people around you to connect with who care about you in order to develop an even greater sense and deeper and more expansive feeling of love, of self-love. You can't self-care yourself into self-love just by, you know, uh, putting on meditations and, and hanging out in the bathtub with your bath bombs. It's just putting on a face mask is just not the kind of self-care that leads to an expansive self-love. Yes, taking care of your body is really helpful. And I talked about that in the people pleaser recovery, where it's like, if you've been taking care of other people all this time and you've been trying to manage how other people feel, then you might not have been managing how you feel. So taking care of your body is certainly a way that you can find your way back to love. capital L. But what Taiwan wants us to remember is that the duality of life is that you are alone when you come in and you are alone when you leave. But on the flip side, you are not alone when you come in because the portal that you came through was another person. And you are not alone when you leave because all of the people who surround you and all the people who will take care of your body once your spirit has left it are with you. There's a togetherness that happens in the in-between that is special and magical and cosmic. And when we're sensitive to those connections, we can start to pull wisdom from even just the smallest encounters with strangers. Even just picking up a book and flipping through and opening a page and just starting to read. There's so much wisdom that we can get from the sort of bibliomancy of like just opening up a page in a random book, or the cartomancy that we get from like shuffling cards and like reading somebody else's words that they took the time to write out and to describe. There is something in the humanomancy of opening up a page in a conversation, opening up a topic in a conversation, and just being curious enough to not only hear what other people are saying, but to really listen to others. And like Taiwan said, to listen. Oh, there we go. To listen to others and allow those experiences that are outside of your own help you move through the world and move through the your inner world in a way that you couldn't have without that exposure, without that, that change of pace and that change of heart and mind and spirit. It allows us connect to our spirit even more, expansively when we get to expand into our conversations with other people and service to other people. I talk about service to other people and in the perfectionist reading too. Um, we get to have in our relationships, in those things that are outside of us that we can't control, but still have an influence on us, and that we can also influence in our own way. Um, we have these relationships in our lives to help us remain flexible enough that we move from one belief to another without the hiccup of needing to figure out which belief to fill the void with. Because, I say a lot that when you uh, remove a belief or you remove a pattern, there's a void that begs to be filled. And either we fill it with stories based on the stories that we know, or we fill it with time spent engaging in the world. And what we see when we lay on the ground and we watch a line of ants that are trekking across, pulling things into their lair. What we find when we engage is that that void is no longer filled with just the things that we know, but it starts to tap into that unknown that comes from the void that is unexpected and delightful in its surprise and in its mystery. And that's where life is truly lived. That's where life is fully lived, in embracing the mysteries as they unfold before us. As a highly sensitive person, we're tapped into these energies, but we don't often know what to name them, or we don't always understand exactly what they're trying to tell us. And I think the point is not to try to figure it out on our own, to allow that mystery to be there and say, I see you, I acknowledge you, I love you, I appreciate you. And the answers that I feel coming from there that I can sense, that I'm highly sensitive to, the answers that I feel and that I can sense coming through that portal, through that sort of voidal space, lie in the experiences that I'm about to have. So let me go out and experience the world. It's hard for highly sensitive people too to be out in the world because we're so sensitive that we're like bumping up against all these energies all the time. But that's why, sometimes books and sometimes podcasts and sometimes music are other sources that we get those from when we're feeling tapped out and we're feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated. We get to have these other pieces of other humans who are sharing their experiences with us through music, through art, and we get to have a little bit of that like, you know, void being filled up. Not so much in that like I need to quick plug the hole kind of way, but in like a I didn't know that this is what I needed to hear kind of way. Or I didn't know that this is what I needed to read kind of way. It tickles us. It tickles us and it makes us more available to ourselves. And that's a really beautiful, sexy, sensual quality to have, to be open to things, even when we're feeling stuck, even when we're feeling at a loss. And that duality is exactly what Taiwan wants us to take away here. I think this is a really great cohesive reading for highly sensitive people. And I honestly think that I didn't say this at the end of the other readings, but I honestly think this is one of those that like needs to be listened to because of its cohesiveness, needs to be listened to again like a week from now, 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, just like kind of repetitively and like it in a way that you can hear new things or you can sense that different things are important to you each time because when you take it all together like it all clicks, and if one part clicks more than another, then I encourage you to save this to a playlist or save this somewhere so that you can come back to it again so that every part eventually clicks. Like this is a really good this is a really good combination of messages for highly sensitive people. Um, we really need to be able to address our patterns, to find power in the emotional stories that we tell ourselves, and to break out of the storytelling by connecting with others in whatever way we're available for at the time. But it's hard to bring it all together if because we're human. It's hard to bring it all together because while it sounds good now, it's like, well, yeah, it in theory, sure, but in practice, easier said than done. I think this needs another listen or two. So I hope that you save this. I hope that you share it with others who you feel are highly sensitive and need this level of support, need this level of expansion and empowerment of that sensitivity. And I hope uh that you take from this a compassion, a really deep compassion for the ways that your own limiting beliefs might be holding you back and the ways that doing things as a rugged individualist is actually keeping you from growing and evolving and becoming the best version of yourself. The best version of yourself does not happen in isolation. The best version of yourself happens when you are connecting with others and you are able to connect most with yourself. Like that's a powerful thing. And I wish that for you. I love you so much. You're deserving of all the love you desire. And I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day.